this video, I create an ethanol plant oil and biodiesel processing factory to power diesel engines. I also make a simple melon and pumpkin farm, spend far too many hours designing a huge new building, build a limestone generator inside the building in order to produce enough limestone to finish the building, and have some serious concerns about those diesel generators. Let's create. In the last video, I made systems to produce every type of chocolate, but it's not every type of chocolate because I didn't make ruby chocolate, and that's because it needs dragon's breath, and I haven't been to the end yet. That said, I do have a little bit of dragon's breath that I got from looting an ancient city, and that should be in one of these chests here. Yes, I've got 6 bottles of it, and I don't really have any other uses for this, so I might as well spend it on chocolate. And I'm going to build that downstairs in this room here because we've got a little bit of space against this wall, and I think I can squeeze it all in there. Of course, we're going to need a tank for it, and I'm going to squeeze that into that corner there just so it's separate from everything else. And we're going to feed that tank through this back wall here with a little bit of pipe. And the idea here is that I can grab a little bit of sugar, a little bit of cocoa beans, a little bit of charcoal, and I can put one of each ingredient in there, a bit of charcoal in there, and then all I need is a bucket of milk in there. And that's going to make us some ruby chocolate. Oh, and I haven't powered that pump, have I? Oh, and it doesn't make much. All right, well, I better get the rest of the ingredients in here then, hadn't I? Fingers crossed that's going to be enough to make us a whole basin's worth of this dragon's breath chocolate, ruby chocolate stuff. It is! Oh, good, and we've got a couple left over as well. And then all I need to do is get a little bit of power for this pump. There we go, got power to the pump now. Lovely. That should pump all of that into there. There we go. 1 bucket's worth of ruby chocolate. That was easy. Now, the more I look into this chocolatey candy empire, the more I realize there is to do. You see, I made a whole list of all of the things that we can create, and it's ridiculous. There are gingerbread men, chocolate bars, glazed berries, marshmallows on sticks, marshmallows, glazed marshmallows, candy canes, honey candy, chocolate candies, hot chocolate drinks, hot cocoa drinks, sweet rolls, honey apples, builder's tea, melon popsicles, apple pie, chocolate pie, cookies, sweet berry cookies, honey cookies, glowberry custard cake, pancake, sweet berry cheesecake, pumpkin pie, and blaze cakes. And that's just way too many things to squeeze into one building's worth of production. And considering I need a whole bunch more farms still to produce all those things, including melon and pumpkin, glowberries, apple, bread, lava, and a bigger egg farm, because these little chickens are just not pooping out enough eggs, I just don't think that's all achievable in this little area, because I had a whole bunch of other plans for this area too. See, I did want to have a melon and pumpkin farm, and I did want to make blaze cakes, because that's going to be very important in the next part of this Let's Play. But I also wanted to be making biodiesel, and that needs a whole factory on its own, which really means we don't have all that many buildings left for all that crazy amount of production, and even if we used every single one of these to produce all of those things, we'd still need an entire area bigger than this area put together. So I think we're going to save actually producing all of our candies later on for another big build, because I've got some big plans over in this area here, and today we're going to focus mainly on melon and pumpkins, biodiesel, and blaze cakes, which is still a massive amount of stuff to do in one episode, because that still means I've got to build a whole bunch of buildings. And in terms of these buildings, I want to join these two together to make one big long line of buildings. I want to join those two together to make another big building like these, and obviously we're going to need a little small one over here. And that's a lot of ambitious things to do, so I'm going to start with something easy, which is melon and pumpkins, and I'm going to build that in this little one here. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It only takes a couple of seconds and it really helps me out. And there we are. Not a bad little tiny building to go right next to our giant big buildings, but it's supposed to be smaller than the other ones, so it's fine. And inside, obviously, there's absolutely nothing going on at all. We do have a little bit of attic space up here, and down here we need to squeeze in our melon and pumpkin farms. But don't forget, we don't need an absolutely ginormous one, because this is only for us, and realistically, we aren't going to actually be using all that many melons and pumpkins. That said, I would like to make this as efficient as possible, which takes me to my test world. Just like that. Okay, in this test world, I have some tests set up to do testing with, because this is a test world and that's what you're supposed to do. I have melons and pumpkins set up on rich soil. I also have it on normal farmland, and I also have it on peat's farmland, because there's 3 different types of farmland we can actually grow this stuff on, and I want to test out which one's going to be the fastest. And the other thing I want to test is, does having rich soil or peat on the sides of where they're going to grow actually make them grow any faster, which I don't think they will. And that's only on the farmland ones. On the other ones, we've just got normal dirt. We've also got a combination of saws and drills, because I want to see if there's any difference with those. But the first thing I want to test is which one's going to grow our seeds the fastest, and I'm pretty confident it's going to be a race between rich soil and peat. So what I need to do is come over here, come to this command block, which is going to turn up the random tick speed, click go, and see what happens. Which one's going to be wow, okay, the rich soil's already got stuff growing on it. The farmland's relatively slow. The peat's catching up. But I think it seems to me, whoa, it's a race between rich soil and peat. Oh, and peat's nearly got it. There's one. What? No. Oh, that's too close to call. Okay, so that's test number 1 done. Now what I want to do is turn the random tick speed up even higher. And the reason I want it even higher is because I want the pumpkins and melons to grow back as quickly as possible in order to get a fair test. Because the test we're going to do now is to see whether drills or saws are going to be better. So behind each one of these, we've got barrels with funnels going in, and underneath each one of these, we've got these command blocks in here, which basically just says if there's any items within this little area, chuck them in that barrel there. Very simple. So I guess what I want to do now is turn on the machine and see which is better. And they all break at the same time, regardless of saws or drills. They all break at the same time. We're getting the same number of drops, but apparently my command blocks are not reaching out far enough. These ones are not getting collected. But you can see it's kind of working. So instead of having a distance of 4, I'm going to have a distance of 5, and that should mean that everything gets collected. And in the barrels, we got a bunch of melons in that one. We got even more in that one, and that's just normal farmland, and that's the only one with drills. And in this one, we got even more. Okay, now that I've adjusted the settings slightly, I guess it's time for another test. So here we go. Let's see which one, after a few minutes, gives us the most melons and pumpkins. So the rich soil ones gave us over a stack of pumpkins and over 5 stacks of melons, whereas the normal farmland was actually less than 5 stacks of melons and only just over a stack of pumpkins. So let's check the peat. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, peat has given us nearly 2 stacks of pumpkins and a whole bunch of melon slices. So peat is clearly the winner when it comes to actually growing the melons and pumpkins from the stems. So for the next test, everything has now been planted on the peat farmland, and now all of these ones are saws, all of these ones are drills, and I want to see what the difference is between drills and saws, if there is any at all. On your marks, get set, go! Are mechanical drills going to be better than mechanical saws? So our saws got us 12.5 stacks of melon slices and 2.25 stacks of pumpkins, so that's pretty good. And the drills nearly got us that amount, but it's almost the same, so I think that's probably just the difference in the random chance of them actually growing on each tick. And the combination of both pretty much got us exactly the same. So yeah, I don't think there's any difference between mechanical drills and mechanical saws on here, and it really doesn't matter if they're growing on dirt or peat. So now the question is, can I make a relatively small yet pretty efficient melon and pumpkin farm? Let's find out. This raised area of smooth stone blocks here is the amount of room I have inside of that building, and I kind of wanted to make something a little bit like this because I think it looks quite smart. I think it'll look quite good in there, but the problem is it's going to be very difficult to pick up the items. I could put a hopper minecart at the bottom to pick up these melons and pumpkins, but it's going to be quite difficult getting the ones from the top. So I've got another idea. Now something like this should actually work pretty well. It'll all fit within the room, and the good thing about this, it's stackable vertically. And now that's going to do 2 rows at once. Nice and easy little contraption to fit inside of our little melon and pumpkin building. And the first thing I'm going to need to do is go to our little temporary peat farm that I made and steal a bunch of this peat. And it's just occurred to me, there's one more thing I want to test in the test world. And that is, do the melon and pumpkins actually have to grow on some variation of dirt, or can they just grow on anything? No, they won't grow on that. What about doing something like this? Yes, that'll work if I can craft like a chipped version of dirt, and that doesn't look too awful. Good. Okay, so with these melons, this is our first layer going in. I forgot mechanical souls actually hurt you in real life. Real life? You're playing Minecraft? Well, I mean, not in creative. Jeez. I didn't get myself enough seeds. All right, there we go. So we've now got 9 melons planted down there, and now I just need to do pumpkins. Ow! A couple of stop it! A couple of rows above. Jeez, thing's vicious. Ow! Stop it! Make a couple of minor adjustments to my little cart. One of those there. Excellent. Bit of glue. And there we go. We're now harvesting pumpkins and melons. This is wonderful. Not very efficient. It's efficient enough. How much more efficient does it need to be? Right, now what we've got to do is get the items out of there into something and then all the way over there into that storeroom. Oh, how could that be? At this point then, I think we're going to need a hole in the floor on another basement. Okay, we've got it all the way over here. We just need power now. Why is there no power going? Oh no, not again. Be one of these power lines. Some will be, there we go, look. Boop, fixed. Speaking of power, I wonder how many stresses we're actually using right now that everything is connected to this power station. Been a long time since I've actually come and checked on the board up here. So what have we got? We've only used 85,000 out of 262,000. We've barely even used a quarter. Ain't running out of power anytime soon, apart from when that thing breaks. All right, gearboxes then. One there and one there, and that's going the right way. Then we want one there and one there, and then that's going the right way, and that's connected to all of those, so they're all going the right way. And now, oh, I don't want that in the system. No, thank you. So all I've got to do is just put that on there, and there we go. If and when this thing actually ever grows any melons or pumpkins, it's going to be good. So that leaves this little bit of space here in the room, and it leaves a bit of space outside to play with as well. If only I had some melons and pumpkins I could actually decorate with. Perhaps, if I'm very lucky, I might have a couple kicking about in here. Oh, I've got a few. 3 whole melons. Wow. Really useful. Sort of pile of pumpkins and melons in here might look good, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Whoa. Look at all those different types of pumpkins. Oh, a cuckoo clock. Oh, and there's a whole bunch of different types of melons as well. Oh, well, I can't wait for all of these things to get grown then, so we can make a whole bunch of different types and get this all decorated with those. But it is going to be a while. I guess I'll just be patient, maybe. Or what I could do instead of being patient is I could build the next building over here, which is going to be either that one or that one. Let's build. So as usual, I started by sorting out the foundation, flattening everything out with the power drill and using variations of andesite bricks to match the slope of the terrain. For the actual building, I took heavy inspiration from a photo of a real-life high street in a ski resort, which would become more of a challenge than I thought. Starting with the front, I placed supports with a frame block cover, and then I began working on the roof. Using frame block slopes combined with warped wood, I attempted to create a 2-tiered roofline with 2 layers of windows, and after several attempts and rebuilding the roof many times, something still didn't feel quite right, so I moved on to the bottom layer, adding the front of the building with variations of small tough bricks, hoping this might help the roof feel more connected, but it didn't. I must have rebuilt the roof of this building at least 4 times now, and it's getting kind of irritating trying to get it just right. And if you're wondering why it looks like this, well, I'm trying to make it a little bit like this picture, particularly the buildings on the left. And while I think I've done a reasonable job of getting that, I think this all looks a little bit weird. And one of the biggest issues is the fact that this is so tall and that's so short, it feels like it's missing a middle layer. So really, what I want to do is raise the entire roof up a few blocks, but I don't want to build it again. So I've got an idea. And for this idea, I'm going to need some piston extension poles, a couple of slabs, and a mechanical piston. I'm also going to need a whole bunch of glue, because what I'm going to do is that I'm going to glue that bit there, and I'm going to glue all the way over to this block here, which should mean... Oh, it's too big. Of course it is. Why is it too big? All right, that's fine. We'll have to just do it in a couple of parts. Okay, fine. Can I glue from there up to here? They must be connected. All right, fine. What about now? Can I glue from there to there? I can. Okay, so I've got all of that in. And now I want all of this in next to it. So let's see how far we can come down. We can get all the way to there. That should have glued all of that together, hopefully. So now if we come underneath here, we can see all of that's glued. Stick in a piston there like that. Put a few bits of shaft on it. Get a mechanical crank. And hopefully, there we go. My roof is going up. Add a bit more of that. Twiddle it some more. How high do we want this thing to go? Oh, this is amazing. This saved me so much work. To be honest with you, I feel like this entire bottom level is a block too short. So I'm going to raise that up by 1 block, and then we need a middle layer as well. So that'll go to there, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 2 more. Now, does that look too tall now? It is very tall, but it's probably about in line with our other buildings. But I can adjust that as I need to. So I'm going to sort this front wall out, put the middle part in, and see how it all fits. And there we go. With a little bit of effort, we've now got a middle floor in there. I think this makes the building look a whole lot better. There's no side or back on it yet, so we've got that to deal with. And of course, we've got all of this area at this end as well to deal with, where I want to basically bolt on another building in a slightly different style, facing in a slightly different direction. So I've still got a lot of challenges ahead of me, but I think we're getting somewhere. And the biggest challenge is that I'm running out of limestone. I want to do the whole front of this next building in limestone, and I've only got, well, this much left. And I could go take my pickaxe and go mining for a bunch more limestone, or we could make some. Now, it doesn't actually tell you that you can make limestone, but you can. All you got to do is make a cobblestone generator, but instead of using lava and water, you use lava and honey. And it just so happens that over the last couple of episodes, we made ourselves a little honey machine. So with a little bit more block placing, we now have a side on here, and I've chosen to have some big glass windows in there. We've now got a back on it as well with some more windows, and I've even done some rooms inside. So going through this little door here, we've got a room divider which divides this big room with this big room, which doesn't have a wall on it yet. And in the corner up here, we've got some stairs that take us to our second floor, and if we go all the way around here, we've got a big room which is where our limestone generator is going to be. And then we've got upstairs as well, which is the big old attic space, and that's even more room. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time digging out a basement, connecting up some power, and then building that limestone generator. Well, there's a big old basement, which is fantastic, and we've even got power going in. And that power runs up behind this little wall in the corner there. It comes all the way up the stairs, through this little area here, and into this room. And I'm going to basically do what I did with my cobblestone generators. Perhaps not quite so big. You see, I don't need tons of limestone, so I think we'll just have half of one of these, and that should be plenty. So first things first, we're going to need a few buckets of honey, so I've just set up this very temporary little pump to do that. We're going to need a couple more buckets of lava. I'm going to need some storage drawers and some emerald upgrades, and with a few create blocks, it really shouldn't be too difficult to make. Okay, let's do this. Let's see what happens. That broke, and there we go, limestone. It's working. And with a little draw key here, and one of those there, we're now generating limestone. Although I think some just popped out the sides, which isn't ideal. Oh yeah, we're getting it in the honey. And there we go. It's all working rather nicely. Job done. Which means I've now got enough limestone to start building our next building, which is exactly what I'm gonna do next. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. I've managed to blend it with the roof on the other building. We've got a ton more space in here, and I really like how it's all come together. If we go inside, we've got plenty of room. We've got a huge big room down here. I've joined it through into these rooms as well, and if we go upstairs, we've got even more room. We've got this big old space here, which takes you onto the balcony, which, well, doesn't really do much at all, but it's a balcony. And then going up onto the second floor, we got a big old space here as well. And that's good, because we're going to need a big old space, because we're going to be producing biodiesel in this building. And the reason I'm producing biodiesel is because soon I want to be working with these diesel engines. They basically just run off this biodiesel stuff and they'll produce energy, and I like that idea, because as much as my power plant's great, it don't have caused me some problems with the lava. Now, they're relatively complex little things to make, and in order to fuel them, we actually need to make biodiesel, and you make biodiesel by mixing plant oil and ethanol, and you make ethanol by fermenting something with bone meal in a basin with a lid on it, which apparently uses a clock, because that makes sense. And to make plant oil, it's just basically compacting seeds, which is actually very handy, because in our building where we've got many different foodstuffs, we just happen to be generating bone meal from cutting our chicken to pieces. We're generating a whole ton of seeds from our farm, and in the other building, we're even pumping in a whole bunch of sugar that we're making from our sugar cane that we're bringing over from our starter area. Now, downstairs in these buildings, I actually do want them laid out like little shops, so I'm not going to do anything with the downstairs. We're going going to do all of this production upstairs, and I think this is a good space for us to start. So let's get cracking. And I suppose we should start by making a handful of clocks, and then we can make a handful of lids, and they'll go with our handful of basins. We're also going to need some presses, which I've already got, and we're going to need some mixers, which I've already got. So setting this thing up really shouldn't be too difficult. We could potentially have 4 basins for whatever we're doing with those. We could have a couple of presses, and then we could have a couple of mixers. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. And like what we did with our chocolate factory, where we've got the tanks downstairs, I think it would be a good idea to have the tanks of our ethanol, plant oil and biodiesel down here at the back of the shop. So there we go, 3 big old tanks for our 3 liquids, and now we've got access to these from upstairs, and now each one has an input and an output to the tank. We'll have our basins for our ethanol there, our basins for our plant oil there, and our basins for our biodiesel here. Something a little bit like that. Now all we got to do is get the items up here, which could be a little bit tricky because that means our storage drawers will need to reach all the way over from there and there all the way over here. But I want to automate a lot of this. You see, I don't want the biodiesel to just live over here in the future because we're going to be moving away from this area soon, and I don't want to have to keep coming back here to get it. So we're going to need some sort of transport system that takes this out of here and takes it to wherever we're going. Now at some point in the future, I want to have a massive storage warehouse, and I've already got tracks kind of leading in this direction from our other rail network. So I need to find a way to get all of these items onto a train, and not just the biodiesel we're making here, but all of the items that we're making from our farms as well, so that we can move them to that new area. Now we've got a train station here, so loading it all onto the train shouldn't be too much of a problem, but getting them from these buildings to the station might be a problem, and also getting the items between the buildings might be a problem. Now again, previously I talked about using our little van to do deliveries, and that's exactly what I want to do. This van here currently goes to the farm at 10 o'clock every morning, picks up the items from there and delivers them to here. But I don't just want it to do that. I also want it to come down this lane, or maybe this lane. I want it to come basically around this area, delivering items to all of the different buildings and then dropping them off at the train station as well. And now that we know roughly what level we're going to be having the landscape here, even though we haven't finished this building here yet, and that's a lot of things to achieve, and I don't know if I've got time to do all that today. So for now, all I'm going to do is take some of the items out of here manually, put them into our biodiesel processing factory, get that up and running so we know what we're doing, and then we can focus on transport. So the first thing I've done is to place down some spare storage drawers. Each one of these has got 2 emerald upgrades in, and I'm just filling up the bone meal. Now I've taken all of that bone meal from there, but I've got a whole bunch of it in my backpack as well. So that'll give us plenty to get started with. We also need to grab a whole bunch of seeds, and I think 10,000 should do it. And last of all, we're going to need sugar. And we got a whole bunch of sugar in here, but I need this sugar. I really need it to be producing the candy, and we don't have all that much of it. That said, in order to make ethanol, we don't have to use sugar. We can also use apples, potatoes, or sugar cane, or we can use tomatoes, pumpkins, or rice. And since we made our Melon and Pumpkin Farm earlier, we've actually already got 400 pumpkins in here. So we could use those, but we're also going to be using those for pumpkin pies. And one thing we've got an absolute ton of that we're hardly using any of at all is tomatoes. So this is what we're going to use. I think 5,000 tomatoes should be a good start. For our ethanol then, we're going to have our 4 basins like this. Each one of those is going to have a lid on. They're going to have a conveyor coming out the front of them, and 2 of those conveyors are going to be slightly longer than the others. A little bit like that. We'll have a funnel going onto the front of each one of those basins like that, and then we're going to have some brass funnels along these belts here, and these are going to be on synchronized inputs, and that should mean that our tomatoes and bone meal then come out one at a time and should get split across those evenly. That's my little plan. I could do force split on here to make sure that they're split properly, but if I do that, there's a chance that we'll get too many tomatoes or too many bone meals on there, and I kind of want them to alternate. And now that we've got ingredients in these should actually start to produce some ethanol. And let's go downstairs and see if we're actually starting to get anything in this tank. We are. That didn't take very long at all. Ethanol is coming in. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is whether or not we're going to get the right things in the right order here. You see, we're either going to get too much bone meal in here, or we're going to get too many tomatoes. So I really need to sort out this input system so it actually puts the right things in the right places. And I don't think this is the best way of doing it. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to have 4 conveyors down here at this level here. And those are still going to have the inputs going in like that. Then hopefully we can fill in from above as well, and I'm going to put chutes going into these. The only problem here is, oh yeah, it comes up at a funny angle because of the lids. And if I expand that belt out one and that belt out one, we can have our tomatoes going out the bottom 4 at a time, and we can have our bone meal going out the top 4 at a time. And hopefully that'll work. Only one way to find out. Okay, we've got power to everything. Yes, but oh no, that doesn't work at all. I have a new plan. Because we can't bring the items in from the top and we've got pipes coming out the bottom, we're going to bring the items in from each side. So we've got brass funnels on either side. We've got the normal funnels going into there. We've got the pipes coming out the bottom. We're all wide up. We've also got a couple of item drains coming out of each side, although we only need one on each one of these. Then we got our tomatoes there on that one and our bone meal there on that one. And again, just like we did before, we're going to put a funnel on there and set that to 4. And we're going to put a funnel on there and set that to 4. And now we should get the right amount of items coming through over the item drains and going into these. So these basins should always have the exact right number of items in each one, creating us plenty of ethanol. So it's not quite as compact as I was hoping it would be, but it's not too bad. And checking downstairs, yep, we're getting a reasonable amount of ethanol coming in there now, so that's good. So I guess with this, it's going to make sense to have the biodiesel in between these two things, seeing though that's going to need the liquids from both of the others. And for this, we need to get 2 lots of liquids in and 1 liquid out. So we need basins with 3 sets of pipes on them that don't connect and don't... Oh, geez. Why is everything so tricky? So we've got our ethanol line coming into the front. We've got the output going into the middle there. And then we need another input coming from this tank, which doesn't have anything in it yet, coming into there. Guess we can drop this down 1 layer as well. And that should all work, but it ain't going to work until we got some plant oil. That shouldn't be too big to fit into all of this thing, because it is literally just squashing seeds. Well, this all might look like a bit of a mess, but I think once I apply power, it should work. What we've got here is our seeds coming across an item drain into these tunnels here, which are going to split between those. They're going to get pressed into plant oil. That plant oil is going to get taken through this pump down into the tank below, and then it's going to get pumped back out into these mixers here through these pipes, as well as the ethanol being pumped in through these ones, and that's going to turn it into biodiesel, which is then going to get pumped out from below, and that's going to come down into this tank here. That should power absolutely everything up here. It should also power the mixers, it is, and the presses as well. That's good. So all I need to do is pop that pipe there, and that should start pumping ethanol into there. It is doing good. So now we're making plant oil. There we go. Plant oil's already coming in, and we're making biodiesel, and that's just totally disconnected for some reason. Why did that disconnect? Why is that breaking? It's not connected to anything else. One there, and then bring it round there. Is that going to work now? There it is. There's the biodiesel going down into the tank. Wonderful. Well, there we go. A fully functional biodiesel processing plant. It's been probably 30 seconds, no more than that. How much have we got? None, because we've just got... What? Why have we got ethanol? That's the biodiesel tank. What? There we go. Ethanol's going into there now. And now there should be some biodiesel coming down here. Come on. Give me that biodiesel. We don't have enough ethanol. So what I'm learning from this is we need a much bigger one of these. Oh, and this is broke again, this pipe. What? I need smart pipes. We need to make sure we're only getting biodiesel down there. Hopefully now if I connect those, is that still going to have a problem? It said crossing the streams, but I don't think this should be crossing the streams. It's broke again. No, it's broke again. How? But then, okay, fine. Right, okay, I've got an idea. Let's smash that to bits, smash that to bits. We'll bring that pipe up across there so it's going upwards. We'll do the same thing here with this one so that that one's going upwards. And now if I run those under there, there shouldn't be any way they can connect with anything else. But it's still broke. If I break that one and just connect it to there, is that all right? Yeah, it's fine connected to the one tank. As soon as I connect it to the other one, it's just not happy with it at all, even though we've got a filter on there to say that's the only thing to allow. So I think what we need to do is actually have these smart fluid pipes underneath these actual basins. Well, it looks like I've got some work to do rebuilding all of this. Jeez. And a few minutes later, all of our biodiesel and plant oil is gone, and this room is now 100% dedicated to producing ethanol. So we've now got 12 rows instead of just 4, and that should mean we're producing a whole bunch more ethanol a whole bunch quicker. And as much as we need an absolute ton of these, turns out we only need a tiny bit of plant oil. So coming back to our limestone farm, we've now got over 35,000 of that in here, so I think that's probably more than enough. Let's just turn that off. And I think this room here would be more than enough room to be producing that plant oil. And without too much fuss at all, I think that's pretty much set up. There we go. Plant oil system done. So all we need now is biodiesel. We're getting somewhere. We've now got ethanol coming up through here. And we've got plant oil coming down here. All we need to do is mix it together. And this time I'm going to keep things a little bit more separated so we don't end up with those pipe breaking problems. 3 basins, just like that. However, I want them up a block higher. And that way I can make sure that none of our other pipes interfere with those ones. And instead of those there, we'll put our smart pipes in there instead. That should prevent anything going down those pipes except for biodiesel, which should mean we don't have any of those issues we had before. What a mess. What an absolute spaghetti mess this thing is. So now all we need to do is connect our ethanol line. Now we're making biodiesel. Biodiesel is in the pipe below us and it's not all breaking, so that's good news. But is the tank full of biodiesel or is it full of plant oil? It's full of plant oil, of course it is. Stop it! There we go. Now it's getting full of biodiesel. Alas! So I just need to tidy up this mess. Okay, there we go. That is a whole bunch smaller than it was. I think this should all be okay as well. We just need a couple of pumps. Here it is. There goes the plant oil. We need a pump down there for the ethanol. So that should hopefully all start going in now as well. It is. Yeah, we've got ethanol in there, and that should mean we're making biodiesel. We are. And that biodiesel is coming down through these pipes, and it's not crossing the streams, and it's not all breaking. It's actually working. I can't believe it, peeps. With a little bit more jiggery-pokery, I'm now processing the plant oil up here as well, which is great. That's going out of there into a new tank downstairs and coming back up through there. And good news, our biodiesel is full, which is incredible because that's hardly been running for any time at all. We've still got plenty of ethanol. We've still got oh geez, this is good. And I'm hoping I'm not going to need a bunch of threshold switches to optimize all of this. I'm hoping it will just stop producing. It will once it's got enough. Look, it's just not running now. Oh, that's great. So all we need now is a diesel generator to see what happens. Since we've got a whole bunch of space down here in this basement and not a lot going on in it, I might as well set up our little mechanical crafter in here. However, there's two types of diesel engines. There's diesel engines and there are modular diesel engines. And modular diesel engines can actually be stacked together to use more power, and they only need one pump's worth of diesel into them to power them. But for the sake of testing, I'd like to build both just to see how different they are. And I think the recipe is the pistons there, the flint and steel there, the brass there. We then need one of those there, some brass sheet there, a bit of pipe there, and some sturdy sheet there. And I think that's it. Yeah, it's doing something. Is it going to create the thing I wanted though? It is. We've got a diesel generator. There we go, a little diesel engine. Right, now I want some modular ones. I no longer need this row. Andesite alloy, flint and steel, sturdy sheet, precision mechanism, brass and it requires a whole diesel engine in the middle. Oh, what? Oh, I need another one of those then first. I'm going to need a few of these. Okay, we've now got 10 diesel engines. Now I need to make a whole bunch of modular ones. Have I done it right? I have. I made a modular one. Let's have some more. And there we go. I have one diesel engine and 9 modular diesel engines. Let's go see how they work. How much power can we create? Because it's the create mod, mate. Okay then, test number 1. How much stress can I get out of one bucket of biodiesel in a diesel engine? And how long does it last for? Let's find out. It's going. Has it all gone in? It has. It's all gone in. We get 1024 stress. But if you look at the biodiesel, it is going down pretty quickly. We can change the direction. And apparently we can also silence it, but it's not really that loud. And I think I can make a silencer. How does this work? Do I just click on it? I do. Oh, and it's totally silent. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's totally run out now. They last about 3 minutes per bucket, which isn't bad, but it's not as long as I was hoping for. Now it's time to test this modular one. So let's get that buckets with the biodiesel in there. And yeah, that's still 1000 stress units, and it looks like it's going down about as quickly. So if we remove that, add a bunch of these in front of this and connect them together like that, then we should, get a whole bunch more stress. 4000 stress, but now it's going down really quickly. So if we had 3 of these, that's 3000 stress for 1 minute for one bucket. The question is, how quickly can we produce one bucket of biodiesel? Which really comes down to how quickly we can produce one bucket of ethanol, because that's the thing that's slowing us down. So we've totally run out of bone meal in this system, and it hasn't even made 96 buckets worth of ethanol. In fact, it's probably made a little bit more than that, but obviously we've turned a lot of it into biodiesel. But the fact is, that is a ridiculously expensive process to generate a little bit of fuel for an engine that doesn't run for a very long amount of time. So I've got 4 level 4 boilers running off blaze burners, which run off lava, and that produces us over 250,000 stress units. In fact, it gives us 262,144 stress units. And in order to get the equivalent amount of stress from diesel engines, I would need 254 of them. And considering one bucket of lava will run a blaze burner for 1,000 seconds, which is over 16.5 minutes, 254 diesel engines would require 85 buckets of biodiesel a minute to give us the same amount of stress as what we're currently getting. So that's basically almost this entire tank every single minute, which wouldn't be so much of a problem if the ethanol wasn't so expensive to make and took such a long time to produce. And it also wouldn't be a problem if diesel engines weren't so expensive. It's ridiculous. Now, I don't want to say that the Create stuff is overpowered, but a lot of it is. But these are so massively underpowered, I can't see any situation where one of these is going to be remotely useful to anyone. Take this van, for instance. That would probably have an 80-litre capacity fuel tank. It would also likely have a diesel engine inside, and for reference, a builder's bucket is around about 15 litres. That means it would take 5 buckets to fill up this fuel tank of 80 litres, and that would probably do maybe 400 or 500 miles, generating at least 100 horsepower, which is a lot more than 2 water wheels. And that's what this is equivalent to. One diesel engine is the same power output as 2 water wheels, and yes, it's faster, but that's the same amount of power. And I wouldn't mind the lower power if it lasted more than 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes is absolutely ridiculous. And going into the mod menu, I can actually change the settings for the Create diesel generators, and what I can actually change is the RPM of these motors, so the speed that they run at, and I can also change how strong they are. But what I can't change is how long the fuel lasts, and that's what I really want to do, so I won't use them. What I am going to do, however, in the next episode is make blaze kegs. And blaze kegs make blaze burners run really powerful. In the meantime, though, I've got to finish off this building. I've got a whole lot of interior work to do. I've got to decorate all of this sort of stuff, but unfortunately, as usual, I'm completely out of time. So thank you for joining me on this relatively pointless journey, but at least we all now know that Create diesel engines are completely pointless.